That was pretty nice.
Ooh, I like that. I like how we did it wearing different colors.
And didn't even know.
Yeah. That's a good point. I should have texted you and been like, yo, you wearing orange?
It's one of the few that fits up here and here at the same time.
Mine fit nowhere.
Well,
I just
you're
swim
still
in them.
120 pounds.
Yeah.
Looking sexy.
Ooh, I thought that was part of the song.
It was part of the song. It's a new song.
That was definitely planned.
We got the very lovely
Shirts.
Jennifer Allen and Tina backstage. I don't know why we're on camera. They look a lot better than we do.
We have face for radio.
Yeah.
So hot.
Check out their OnlyFans at.
There's definitely an at.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Turn Left Podcast. Very exciting episode here with Bud and Jennifer Allen. Been looking to get them on for a good long while. Finally got them out here. What y'all been up to? I know y'all just went to Texas Roadhouse, which is
Pretty normal.
yeah. What'd you get? Steak and potatoes?
Always.
Always. What about you, Jennifer?
I got the steak.
Before we hit the record button, Jennifer has been smooth talking us through the mic for the past 10 minutes and being very. I think there was.
Suggestive.
I think HR needs to be directed. I need to get an HR department here.
You need an HR department.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a commercial the whole time. Everything is gonna have like a soft line afterwards.
Right, yeah.
So hot. Thanks for joining us, by the way. Let me get my list out here. But either way, you have been attending Dominion quite a bit. Do you want to talk about that first? Obviously, in fact, let me change that. Sorry to mix you up.
Change it.
Save Southside Speedway, and you are the lucky owner of the Southside Speedway truck.
Absolutely.
That is so awesome, and nobody is more deserving.
It's pretty cool.
You've been driving around, too. I saw you went to work in it. You've been to car shows in it.
Yeah, Jennifer's been pimping it around a little bit. She enjoys it.
Oh, really? Do you drive it on your own sometimes, Jennifer?
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's like my truck too, you know.
Really? Do you ever drive it to work or anything?
Yeah, every day because I work from home.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. My bad. All right. Well,
it's a real short commute. I'm just saying.
And then I guess y'all have noticed that it looks like all the bleachers are gone by now.
Yeah.
Anybody know where they go? Where they went?
Somebody said they scrapped them.
Yeah, that's what I figured what would have happened. But for that much money, I mean, it seemed
I don't know scrap prices anymore, but that's a lot of money for scrap.
it's a ton of money for scrap. But yeah, it's a sad sight to see. Y'all went to the actual committee meeting, or what would you call that again?
Jennifer went.
Yeah.
It's the board of supervisors.
Tell us their
meeting, wasn't it?
seductive.
So all I'm gonna say is, the county said they approved. This was not a public up for discussion meeting. It was more going to put ourselves out there and make sure. We did have some conversations before the supervisors went into the meeting, but the meeting was just to approve the payment for the contract on the racetrack property, which they did approve, but they did acknowledge during the meeting all of us that had shown up, and they did answer some questions, and they did very much say that nothing is set in stone, and they're going to have future meetings, and they want to hear from the citizens, and they want to get public input on what the property should be. So they have their ideas that they want to do, but they're not closed-minded. So they say they're not closed-minded to the idea of keeping it a speedway. So we have to do what we can do to try to entice them and give them reasons why they would want to.
Okay.
And until it's gone, that's our plan, and that's what we're going to be doing. So any of the future meetings will be posted on the Remembering Southside Speedway page, and we would like as many folks that are interested in trying to keep it a racetrack and not have them bulldoze it, because that's my big fear, is that they're going to dig it up, and that just tears me up to think about.
Oh yeah.
My first and foremost is saving the track itself.
Of course.
And we have lots of great ideas as to what can be done with the property, not just a racetrack, obviously. You know, all the things we've talked about doing in the past that we weren't able to do. So
And you may not be able to answer this question, but it's just a talking point that I wanted to touch on. One lady wrote an article talking about how the property is assessed at 1.5 or something $1 million, and yet the county bought it for $5 million. How does that get approved, and how does something like that?
So they did discuss that in the meeting, and basically what had happened was there was a previous contract in the works before the county got a hold of it, and that was for much more money. It was for over 6, almost 7 million. So they were able to justify it in that way, that they were actually getting a much better deal.
But the county wants to own it, so they choose what's there.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Of course.
Whether they build a park, whether they let it be a racetrack, it's all about them choosing what's there.
Yeah.
So they spent that money to make sure someone else from the outside didn't buy it and put storage buildings up or keep it a racetrack or whatever they don't want there that they're not saying.
Yes.
They want to be in control. So they spent
They're just trying to
taxpayers'
please
money.
all of us
It's,
on the same end.
in my opinion, there's a small chance it can still be a racetrack, a very small chance. But you don't know if the county is just feeding you a bunch of bullshit or if there is actually a little bit of hope there.
Yeah.
So Jennifer and a lot of other people are doing what they can do just in case there is hope.
Yeah. Well, that's all you can hope for, no pun intended. But, yeah, I mean, if there is that sliver of chance, then you got to shoot for it. That's the only chance you've got.
Right.
Who would I
because-
be to not try?
Right.
You've got to
Yeah.
try.
And
Well,
we live
but-
close enough.
And bottom line, these are all politicians, so technically you're still their constituents. So they do work for you,
Right.
but they're also politicians, which
They
So-
also
by
work for a lot of
nature-
people that don't want it to be a speedway.
right.
But if you find somebody important that wants it to be a racetrack, not that we're not important, but to politicians we're not very important.
Yeah.
But you find some big name person or someone who matters in the politician's eyes and they speak up against getting rid of the racetrack, it would matter more.
Mm-hmm.
So people like Jennifer and everybody that's behind it, I feel like they're getting the word out to more people who maybe will touch somebody that'll go, wait a minute, that's a good idea. Let's try to see what we can do here, you know. Because all it takes is the right big guy, you know.
Oh, I mean, and it could be such an awesome racetrack. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I mean, if you make it NASCAR sanctioned and fix the track up, obviously put bleachers back in it, it could really run the whole racing scene here in Virginia, in my opinion. But,
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's no other Friday night track.
That too, but they could start doing
Within
twin late
hours.
model races with real NASCAR late models.
Yep.
Right.
Just
And
like
you look
Dominion.
at what Dominion does. Dominion's crowd is not great. It's never been great. But it's also not centrally located like Southside is.
Yes.
And I know racing, local racing especially in general, is suffering because people have so many more options on Friday nights, Saturday nights for things to do. It's not like it was in the 80s where you didn't have a lot going on.
Yeah.
But if you made that the big deal, people would still fill that place up if it was done right.
Absolutely. They did before it was, in 2019, there was that picture that Cameron Ruggles posted on Facebook that's, I mean, the stands are packed.
Yeah.
All 4 bleachers.
That was Legacy Night, and they definitely, promoted that, talked about it, brought all the greats in from back in the day,
Yeah.
and it drew a lot larger crowd because there was a lot more interest in it, and they knew about it because that's the other thing. When you don't race every Friday, not everyone knows when it's open. When are they racing? When are they not racing? If they're not, actively on social
good
media, they don't always know.
It's a good point. And when it's NASCAR sanctioned, you got big hitters like Peyton Sellers coming there on Friday night.
Right.
It's going to be even easier to sell tickets.
Absolutely.
Which you hit on something too. Every single time you look at the bleachers at Dominion, there's no way that we can compare attendance compared to Southside Speedway. Even
Right.
on Southside Speedway's worst night, it destroys Dominion.
Absolutely.
So there's to be said about, if Dominion's surviving, there's no way that Southside wouldn't be able to, especially if
Right.
it had the hype that Dominion has
Well,
around
Southside survived for years off the back gate. We know that. We paid the purse.
it. Yeah.
All the crew members, all the car owners, all the people that go in the back gates, they were paying the purse.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fans. The fans were profit, So Dominion, I don't know what their business model is, wouldn't even guess. But they're not making it off fans.
Yeah.
There's just no way. Now, they got great sponsors maybe. I don't know where they're getting their money from. But
Well, they also do other things,
Yeah, they do a lot of
They do
stuff.
concerts. Doing
Sure.
a concert this weekend, so
yeah, I mean, there's concerts there the same time there's
yeah.
races.
And road course events.
Literally, there was I don't even know if it was a concert, but I mean, there was a hopping ass party downstairs when
Yeah.
I was leaving the track last
It's,
When
night.
I-
it's a concert.
When I went to
Yeah.
when I spotted for Alex this year,
Yeah.
I went around and the bottom was full and I couldn't get to the elevator. I was like, what the hell? They had a concert going on at the same time.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're making
Multifunctional.
making money. So a lot can be learned from that as well. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many things you could do at Southside.
Oh yeah, that's true.
make money.
That's another thing too. Is you could expand it more. You could do every Friday, like you said, and go back to doing modifieds one Friday and late models the next Friday if you build up the modified class. You could do a bunch of things, but there was enough fans and enough racing there as it was. Not to mention,
Right.
Well, and I'll just say I prefer that it's the same classes every week, only because I don't have to wonder who's racing. That's one of my things I don't like as much about some of the other tracks is I go, okay, well, who's racing tonight? Do I even want to go? Like, I want to know that the same classes are racing every single time I go.
And especially
just
for the
for
casual fan.
consistency.
The casual fan that goes, hey, Dad, take us to the races tonight. And you get out there and you go, where's
There's
that
no late
69
models.
car that was here last week?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Ethan and him are off this week. Well, damn, I wanted to see that guy race.
Yeah.
You know, so I like the short races, every class running, and Southside did a good job with that. And
It is
Southside
ideal for the
did
casual fan.
a good job with the tech for the last few years. I mean, they had great racing. I mean, we go to a lot of racetracks.
You're very right about the casual fan not only wanting all the divisions every night, but the casual fan isn't into the big 200-lap races. Like, oh, we're
No.
not going to run late models this week, but next week they have a 200-lap feature.
And I'm sorry, a
People don't give a
lot of
shit.
guys don't agree with it, but
I like it.
I go to a lot of races. We go all over the East Coast to go to races. I don't ever want to see him run 35 laps of anything. I can't remember the last race I sit there and went, man, if I had 35 more laps of that shit, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, even the dirt features that we go to with the big boys aren't more than 50 laps. And
You've got
amazing.
a few purists that are like, if it ain't 100 laps, I ain't watching it. But you don't have very many of those.
They're not racing for the whole 100 laps. They're waiting.
Yeah, sorry, Steve.
Yeah. Well, and you've seen people even in, say, like a Dominion race is 60 laps. You've seen people come from the back and still, maybe, I don't know, I'm sure people have come from the back and won, but even come up from the back and finish top 3.
Right. But even now at Dominion, halfway through that late model race, unless there's an issue, even at 60 laps, we know who's winning halfway. Whether it's Davey, whether it's Peyton, you know, whether Mason finally gets his win, whatever. At the middle of that race, you know who's winning this race.
But would you know that if it were a 200-lap race?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Granted, you'd have to wait 3 hours to
Right,
see.
but you've got to sit there and stay interested.
Yeah.
And for the casual fan to stay interested, not happening.
Well, yeah, I agree. That's kind of where we started off, too, is,
And that's what they get that, man, this is boring. I don't want to come back to this. This is boring.
yeah, that's what my daughter said. Like, it's a 30-lap race.
Yeah.
And I would just like, I have pointed this out a couple times recently, but it's not just racing that's hurting. I've gone to some squirrel games recently, and I can remember when the Braves, when I would go out there and the diamond was packed and you couldn't fit another person in there.
Yeah.
And I go out there now and I'm like, I couldn't throw something and hit the
Pick
next
a seat.
person.
Yeah.
Like, it's staying near empty. So it's all sports as a whole are just not being promoted the way that they probably should be. And like Bud said, you know, there's so many options for people to do that you just got to find a way to make them want to come do what you're doing.
That too. And there's so many digital options nowadays. Like, there's probably some subscription to where you can watch if you're a big fan of the Squirrels, you can watch every Squirrels game from your house.
Probably
Yeah.
can't.
Which back in the 80s or 90s, there was no way to even do that. So if you actually wanted to go to the Squirrels game or see most of them, you had to go to them. Nowadays, one of the biggest fans sometimes might just be watching it from their house because they pay the subscription. Southside never had that, so I'm wrong.
I'm not totally opposed to it though, because
Yeah.
you can also get people that are much further away
And you
interested.
can build revenue that way if you make it a
Right.
subscription-based thing.
But you think about, you're still a young guy to us, but you've got guys you work with that don't do cars at all. You know, kids don't work on cars anymore.
Everybody.
Kids aren't interested in cars anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you take a kid who doesn't care about cars and get him interested in racing?
You make
you
a
know,
movie called Cars.
You have to.
Put lighting.
You've got to figure out something to get the young people interested again, whether it's Hondas, whether it's the four-cylinder cars, whether it's whatever. You've got to do something because the young people, they don't care about racing no more.
Yeah.
They can't identify with anything out there.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
And you are right, but in my opinion, actually, NASCAR has done a decent job of that. But the stages and stuff are annoying. But
Right.
that's the only way you can keep these young kids.
Well, yeah, they're shortening everything up, just like
Yes.
the Tony Stewart series on Saturday nights.
Yeah.
They have 2 heats and a feature. It's great racing.
Yeah, because it's not 500 laps of.
The whole entire
Nothingness.
show is 2 hours.
Yes.
Period. 2 hours.
Yeah, and I think back to the last year before they did stages, Martin Truex Jr. literally swept the entire race one night,
Oh, yeah.
like led,
Right.
lap to lap or flag to flag, and it was just the most boring thing ever. And they're
Yeah,
like,
nobody
we got
wants
to
to
change
see
this.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you shorten the cup race, how am I going to get a nap in?
Well, that's true.
Those were the
Why don't they?
best.
They're the best naps.
Oh my gosh.
Why don't they shorten the cup race?
Those
Because
naps
you
are
can't
so
sleep.
good.
They can't sell enough sponsors.
Do the sponsors really want that though? If the fans don't,
If they're literally asleep
I guess
in
it's
the
a day-old
stands.
Yeah.
day-old
Oh.
argument. But
I think it'd be a fine line if they look at it now as there's so many sponsors leaving the sport because they're not getting any return. You know, they might could do shorter races and get more interest and actually get the same return. You know,
Yeah.
for 2 hours where they used to get 4.
Well, it's kind of like I think Brad Kozlowski said. It's like all the other sports race on Tuesday and Thursdays and all this kind of shit throughout
Right.
the week. There's no reason why we can't. We don't need to do 4 practices before a race.
Right.
And COVID now taught us that too.
That's
I like
exactly.
it
Kyle
better
Busch
without.
does.
Yeah. Kyle
But-
Busch needs practice, but I mean,
Everybody else doesn't.
the racing was great last year.
It was.
I mean,
Kevin
no practice.
Harvick doesn't need practice.
No.
Yeah, I mean he's nasty. But
Well-
Kyle Busch is a very big practice heavy guy. But
Yeah.
this is
But
aside
he
from
wants
that,
his car perfect. That's why.
Yeah, but aside from that, they realized that you could make it work without qualifying and practice. And all that
Absolutely.
shit. So why not travel around? I'm not saying go from Homestead to keep it obviously make a nice schedule that's
Right. But think about
Workable.
how much money the team saved last year, just in the short weekends.
oh my god,
You know.
especially the small teams.
Yeah. Right.
The big teams don't give a shit.
No, they're just spending it like they make it. So
I was
it
to say
doesn't matter.
they got the same amount of sponsorship and spent less.
Yeah.
So they just
Right. Yeah.
whoop, right in the pocket.
Exactly.
All right, so we talked a lot about this now, about the sport in general, about Southside Speedway. You, throughout your years, for anybody that doesn't know, you've driven race cars, but you've owned race cars, mostly owned race cars. You drove them for
Yeah.
a long time, especially back in, you started in 87, I guess that's where you got your number. Or
Yeah.
y'all started racing in 87.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 17, but David Goad had it because I was 17 when we started.
And you have to be 18.
So no, I ran demolition derbies twice in '86.
Okay.
So in '87 we built the first race car. It was going to be number 17, same as my demolition derby number
Oh,
because
okay.
I was 17.
I got you.
David Goad had the number 17.
Mm.
So we came up with the year I
1987.
graduated, the year I started, and we liked number 87. So, and it was just, once it was on there, it was done. You know?
Mhm.
So we ran the full season in 87, ran part of the season in 88. So me and my dad, a lot of guys don't have what me and my dad had. A lot of guys use racing to bond with their dads. So they stay racing to hang out with their dad or hang out with their son.
Yes.
Well, me and my dad got along well enough that from day one it was the minute you're not having fun, we stop racing.
Okay.
There's no pressure. You don't want to go to the racetrack Friday? Don't go to the racetrack Friday.
Yeah, fuck it.
You know, it was no drama ever. So in 88, I decided it'd be a good idea to get married at 19. So I don't recommend that. So I quit middle of 88.
I got married at 23 and I regret it big.
Big regret.
Just
Yeah.
kidding. just
Huge
kidding.
mistake.
So, but you need to get
Tina, don't tell my wife.
right. So
She knows.
we ran a few races in 88. My dad kept the car because my dad was hooked, you know. So a couple guys drove the car a little bit. Then he sold it. Then he got back in it with Bobby Curtis
Yes.
in 89. They had a Nova, 89 in the 90 or whatever. And then they raced together for a while. Then my dad did the car owner thing with John Eversole, Bobby Curtis, you know, a couple different like real deal race things.
Yeah.
Won a bunch of races, had a great time. And I didn't drive anymore until I think in 91 I ran 3 or 4 races, like partially for Bobby, partially my dad's old car, you know, whatever. And then in 92 I was going to race again.
Partially for your dad and partially for who?
Bobby Curtis bought a Mustang, kind of like just a backup car per se.
And you were driving partly
And
for
my
him.
dad was Bobby was driving my dad's car full time.
Yeah.
So he's like, why don't you drive a Mustang for a couple races?
Okay.
So just for playing around. So I drove it for a while. And then in 92, we started racing again full time. And we raced, and my first wife was pregnant at the time. And she was getting a little nervous and a little bit freaking out about the racing and getting hurt and what have
Danger
you.
of it.
So about 2/3 way through the year, I quit again and never raced at Southside again.
Really? So that was going to be another one. Of my questions. That was the
92
last time you
was-
raced there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you never even raced a U-car at
No,
Southside.
because when U-car racing started, I wasn't allowed to. It was no prior racing experience in any form or fashion.
I forgot about that.
So when we started with U-cars, when the class first started, we built one for a kid at work, a kid named Roger Parker.
Yeah.
And we built him a car. He won like 10 out of 13 races that year. Just killed him.
Really?
He
I
was-
didn't know he had that much success. How many?
10 out of 13 that year.
Whoa.
And it might have been 9, and my dad might have been the 10th one. My dad run one race
Yeah.
and won. So it was a really good car. But we literally had like $800 in it or something. I mean, it wasn't anything fancy.
Dodge Daytona.
Yeah, and everybody said it was car selection. It was car selection, but a guy gave it to me. He was like, I got a front-wheel drive car sitting in the field. If you want it, you can come get it. Cool. It just happened that I got lucky and got a really good car.
Yes, because that was also when the series wasn't sure which car was the fastest.
No. We showed everybody what the fastest car was by accident. We didn't know. You know, we learned as we went, but so we won all the races. I mean, they did dumb shit like they always do. They black flagged us for leading by too much, and
Pulled you down the pit road because they thought something might be
Yeah.
leaking.
I mean, literally told us
Until you were a lap down.
don't pass the leader in the first 10 laps, and it'll be okay. That was when Herb Sanderson was that Herb Sanderson?
I don't remember.
I don't understand that.
I wasn't behind the scenes then.
None of that was happening back when Richard Petty was fucking tearing
So-
up the field.
Roger literally waited until the guy told him it was okay. Passed the leader. They black flagged him. Under green, come down pit road, and raised the hood up, pretended to look at it, and then
It was Irv because your mama was in his
yeah,
face.
my mom cussed him out. And my mom
Your mom,
doesn't.
really?
My mom don't play that shit.
But she's big. I mean, I know she's a racing fan, but I didn't know that she was that.
Oh yeah,
She cared that much.
They were
she
doing him
sits up
dirty.
there and she's quiet and doesn't, but she knows what's going on.
Real dirty.
So they you gotta stop. But they literally black flagged him for leading by too much. And then when I questioned it after the race, it was
Jesse's, Tina's having a stroke.
I know. When I questioned after the race, they said, "Hey, you can't win all the races. That's just the way it works."
Can I just
Yeah, I
say, like, that shady ass shit is part of the reason why Southside did the way that it did.
Did
so
what?
so there was a lot of
Closed
shady
because of
shit.
Corona. I don't think that.
There's a lot of
do
shady
that.
No,
shit
but
that
there
goes
was,
on
like-
in racing.
Yeah,
They
they're not
could've
the only
been
track
so
doing
much
that.
better.
No, every track.
You always hear stories, and we always heard stories.
We're just lucky
but-
enough to be on the wrong end of it because we were winning a lot.
So he still won most
Weird
of the
as that
races. There wasn't a points thing for that class that year.
Yeah.
He still was the champion. He won all the races. Everybody knows.
We
it's
bought him
not
a trophy.
secret.
He bought us a trophy.
Yeah, right. So,
Big one.
Biggest championship trophy ever.
but we started with, we
Huge.
played with the ucars, and we got a modified the following year because Roger wanted to go modified racing.
Yes, another one.
Not
of
a
the
really
questions.
great idea, but
That's a big step.
back then you could buy a modified. I mean, I bought a turnkey modified for like $5,500.
Yeah.
A good car.
Yeah.
So, do you want that or a $5,000 grand stock? You know, so I got the modified.
Yeah.
So he actually did a good job in it for
Some
a
white knuckle
starter.
ride. Yeah.
He just never got any better the whole year. Like if he ran 15.0s the first race, he ran 15.0s the last race. He never got any faster. I didn't do a very good job making the car better. He did not a very good job making himself better.
How old were you at the time?
I don't know, 30 maybe.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
It was
So you were
2002.
Buying modifieds and letting other people drive them.
Yeah.
2002.
That's when I was. I'm 30 now. I would never buy anybody a race car, and I would never even buy one for myself.
Well, and see, a lot of guys don't understand the whole car owner thing, and I've been asked so many times, "What do I get out of it?"
Oh,
It's
even
an-
more than you've
it's
told
an
me.
ego.
You get
It's
even
an
more
ego
than
thing.
driving.
Everything about racing's ego. You know, that's why like me and Donnie Gerard talk about it all the time. If we go to Southside or go to Dominion or wherever we go, if we win the first practice and we win the pole and it rains out, that's a good night.
Yeah.
I did my job. I gave you the fastest car.
Yes.
We don't have to race because I've already won.
Yes. As an owner.
Whatever happens the rest of the night's on you.
That means Ethan made us fail a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah, but
He wasn't the best qualifier.
he's not a great
Nice.
qualifier. But Ethan won as many or more races than I did when he was driving for me, because he won a lot of races without having the fastest car. So there was nights he was
Well,
happy
maybe.
as hell because he won the race, and I wasn't that happy because we didn't hit the pole or win practice or anything else.
Or have like the fast time during the race.
Right.
That doesn't like
But-
to lose
Right.
anything.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't either. But there was also we were up against heavy. Let's say we were up against some stuff that might not pass 10 out of 10 times or 12 out of 12 times. We went through Tech 12 out of 12 times that final
My
season.
cars have been beaten very few times legally,
Yes, that's what I'm
and
saying.
that's just the way it
That's
is.
what I'm saying. So even on the nights that we got out qualified and we got bested on lap times during the race,
Right.
yes, you can say I did my job because I won without the fast car, but you did your job by making sure that I would pass Tech afterwards. So
Sure,
there wasn't
right.
any really more you
Right.
could do. I never blamed you or
Well, no,
held
because
you at
you got a lot of Chapman in you too. You know,
I fuck with Alex and you about
after
like, I didn't know
practice. I can go, Ethan, how's the car? Car's perfect. Well, you were fourth in practice. Yeah, but the car's great. If it was great, we'd be first.
Yeah.
Like, what can they do to make it
Okay,
faster?
Mike Jr.
I'm like, what can they make it faster? And you're like, it's great. I just got a bad draw. I got behind the wrong guy.
Make an excuse for myself.
And I'm like, bitch, tell me how to make the car
my
faster.
penis is small.
Yeah, right.
Like,
So
what?
I'm like, but the whole car owner thing, if you go out there and you run well, you know, you had a good night.
Well, especially somebody like you, this is going to be another question I get into, is especially somebody like you that's had 2 handfuls worth of drivers and pretty much every single one of them has won in your equipment.
Right.
You know that you're the real deal.
Rick Hendrick.
Yeah, you're the Rick Hendrick of all classes pretty much locally, other than maybe late model or something.
Well, you've also got to know your limitations. So financially, that grand stock is as far as I can go financially,
Yeah.
and still be able to go camping and go to Texas Roadhouse and do the things we like to do.
yeah.
So if I try to have a late model or even a modified, I would be spread so thin, even with the great sponsors, that I couldn't win races.
Yeah.
All right. And that grand stock was a top 5 car without Donnie Gerard. So when I bought the car from Bobby, I called Donnie and told him the deal and talked to Austin, and Austin was all in. And Donnie was all in. Donnie is the smartest grand stock guy, setup-wise, that there has been in 20 years. And everybody knows it. And everybody gets mad. Oh, well, it's bullshit. They all
What
know
about
it.
Dan? It's like they were smoking Dan.
Sorry,
Dan.
Without the rules
It
being
worked.
changed in Dan's favor, he would have never won a race at Southside Speedway after we left.
Or if y'all would have stuck around anyway.
Right. The second year when Austin drove for Bo and Farmer, or whoever owned it, without the rules being
That's a different
changed,
thing, too, though.
it was
Nothing against Bo or Michael Farmer, but even the fact that you're saying that, like, who owns that car, who's doing this, who's doing that, who's
Right.
making the decisions.
totally different. Exactly right.
So it's a different, too many, yeah.
Right. But without the rule change, if you had Donnie still there, which Donnie wasn't there,
No.
if you've got Austin and Donnie and somebody owning a car,
But
Dan Rogers can't win a race. Sorry. I like Dan. And Dan has gotten a lot better as a race car driver. He is no Austin Dodge.
Nobody's in Austin Dodge or Grand Stock.
He just won't be. You know?
Maybe, like, well, Mark Simpson's a totally different style of driver.
Absolutely. Simpson, I love Mark Simpson.
He's a beast.
But he's never ran 30 laps the same in his life.
Yes. He's a very
Austin-
out-of-control driver.
Austin runs exactly the same lap every time, and he does it so smooth. And we had a lot of fun that year, obviously. But
talk about feedback.
oh my God, Austin Dodge is the feedback king.
He's like, my steering wheel's a little hot. It's like, I can't do anything about that.
In a U car, okay? In 2010, him and Chapman had identical cars. I mean, nut and bolt, exact same car. Mike, how's the car?
Nuts.
Car's good. Okay. Austin, how's the car? It's a tick tight on landing in 3. I'm like, Austin, it's a U car, dude. I
He's
got
like-
air pressure. That's all I got. for
Yeah,
you.
he's like, it's a bit free on the first eighth of the
No.
entry.
I'm like,
After that, tightens
Is it
up.
loose or is it tight? He says, then leave it alone. Like, bitch, I ain't got time for you.
Yeah.
You know, he was like what, 16 maybe?
Where's my dad,
I mean,
Donnie? I'll tell him.
Yeah, and Donnie goes, "It's a U car. Go ask Bud," because Donnie don't even play like he knows
When it's
U
all
cars.
stock shit.
He's like, Donnie's too smart for a U car.
Yeah, there's not but so much you can change.
Well,
Oh, he'll change everything.
and
It just won't be
that's
legal
the
anymore.
problem with a lot of the U car guys right now is you got U car guys that are smarter than me by setup stuff, so they're trying to use late model stuff in
And
their U
apply it.
cars, and they don't work that way. And some of the stories I've heard about our U cars, the things that we're doing with our U cars,
Oh yeah, they're hilarious.
yeah, like what color bump stops do we run?
What's a bump stop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
I
a
got
new
that
car.
phone call one morning and I just laughed. I'm like, really?
And who called you? No, I'm just kidding.
Hippie.
Oh really?
Well, Hippie told Donnie about it. And because they know that we had him in Alex's car.
Bump stops.
Yeah. Because all they do is they hear things like,
Well, that's somebody else's problem
I
now.
built struts and springs for Alex.
Yeah.
All right. I literally took his new struts out.
By hand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You literally
took
melted
his-
down the metal and spiraled it up.
I took his new shiny
He has
struts out
powers.
because new struts don't work.
Yeah.
Took the old rusty struts, changed the springs because there's a certain set of springs that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they come out of, what year Cavalier they come out of. but I can look at them and go, that's the ones we've been running in your car. And I cut them and put them in Alex's car. And all of a sudden, Alex is the man.
Yes.
All right. So when Alex would tell anybody, yeah, Bud built me a set of struts. Oh, he built you a set of struts, did he? Huh.
Custom.
So if you're faster than guys that are already cheating, imagine how much we have to be cheating to beat them.
That's true. That's a good
If
point.
they knew how dumb our cars were, they'd probably commit suicide.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. It's like that old saying, hell, I'm cheating, and I know he's cheating because he's
Right.
beating me.
Right.
That's not always true. There's a lot of times too, and like you said about Mark Simpson, but it was true, but it was not disrespect. This is disrespect. Some of the guys in UCAR, no offense, even though I just said this is disrespect,
Right.
they can't put together 30 laps to save a lap. They
No.
can't put three laps together.
No, not at
So
all.
it's not always the car. They're trying to make up for themselves with car.
Absolutely.
And this is somewhat unfair. It's a beginner division, and I came from street stock and grand stock and came down, even though it's above street stock, and came down to it. But still, Chapman, I mean, up until he raced that grand stock 3 times or whatever like that,
Right.
he's always been he's never been doing anything else.
Well, and the best thing
So
about
there's no reason why
Southside
these other
was
guys can't learn how to do
we
it.
never, our only store-bought motor in our UCAR history was the one that was in your car, Austin's car, that same car.
And you didn't buy it from the store.
I bought it from Scott Willingham, and he gave me a smoking deal to help us out. It was his old motor that was sitting in his buddy's basement, but it was a store-bought Laurel Automotive motor. That was the only one we've ever owned. And we never needed it at Southside.
That's what I'm
because
saying.
we made up for it in the corners.
The only store-bought motor you've ever had was somebody else's used store-bought motor
Right.
that you got from them.
Absolutely. And all the
So-
other years, I mean, we had a lot of good friends that had store-bought motors.
Well, you're just a liar, bud. We had a big motor. We were cheating the
Absolutely.
whole time,
Soak
and
tires.
it was built
Don't forget
by
soak tires.
Yeah, soak tires.
Every week.
And Joe Gibbs is building.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
we were sending it down there every weekend.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get the driver to wash the car.
Well,
So
I
I don't
did
think
it
the
a few
tires were
times.
getting
Shots
soaked. I'm just
fired.
I did it a
saying.
few times.
a few times. Absolutely.
Ooh.
So, and the
I had
guys,
to because I had the sap that would fall.
And we
on it.
weren't even doing the tricky tires where you go buy like 5 million sets and stack them
funny-
up in your garage,
the funny stuff
like
is,
some people did.
yeah, the funny stuff is like
Hey,
when,
that was before my time.
when you've got guys.
I wish
No,
we
it
were doing
wasn't.
that. It, would've
It
been
was
easy.
during your time. It just wasn't us doing it.
Oh, they'd buy them and then never race the first race or whatever.
They'd stack them up and use
Yeah,
them when they wanted
okay.
to.
Yeah,
But
we practiced so
the,
much.
the funniest thing is you had guys you're racing with way back in UCars that you know had a big motor. We don't care. Whatever. You get lucky every now and then win a race because we got hung up in something. Not going to mention any names.
Yeah.
Mike Hall. And he literally called me at the end of the year and asked me, how do you sell your UCars so cheap? Because my UCars back then were like $3,000.
Yes.
And I said, that's what they're worth. He says, I got more than, I got,
That-
I
my
got as
motor.
much in my motor as you've got in 2 of your cars. Because he built an automatic Dodge, because he had it, and he had a friend that built motors.
Yes.
I don't blame him if he can do it, do it.
And if you get the money,
But you
spend it.
didn't need to do it. That was the whole thing.
Yes.
You know, so there was so many guys spending tons of money. And when you spend tons of money and get outrun, you go, well, they're cheating. They got to be cheating.
Or back then, you say, "Well, I need a Cavalier."
Yeah, and before I'd done it, I knew everybody was cheating back in my day. When I was Lynn O'Neill. Lynn O'Neill beat us every week when I was helping my dad with a grand stock. Him and they would get on a run and just kill everybody in grand stock. And he would play with people. And one of the funniest stories ever was Lynn O'Neill, before qualifying every week, would go open the trunk of his car, take his fuel filter off, go over to his truck, and he'd fill it up with some special fuel and put his fuel filter back on. Go out and sit on the pole every week. And every week, somebody in that pit whined like a little bitch, and they checked
Test it.
fuel every week. They never checked anything else on Lynn O'Neill's car.
He's distracting him.
He's playing.
Yep.
Smart. I mean, very smart.
Good gameplay, Lynn.
Lynn had a shot guy before everybody else had shot guys. And they were way ahead of a lot of guys in setup. But long as you keep taking that fuel filter off, that's all we're looking at.
Yeah.
You know.
What is he doing there? Why does he do that?
Right.
They never think twice about.
No.
He's doing that so that you don't look at anything else.
It's like when we were at Langley and we went to qualify and we taped the hood all up and taped the
We did
grill
it
up.
Dominion
It
ones
was
too.
great. Yeah.
And then the next time we went, they were all doing that shit.
Yeah.
It was
It was
great.
great. But it's just, the UCars are still the best thing going. And there's, even at Dominion, the UCar racing is really good.
I wish there was more of them.
There needs to be more of them, and there needs to be a few more good cars.
I don't understand why there's not.
Well, because all the Southside cars have been sold. So the guys at Dominion get a little butthurt when the Southside guys show up and win. And I
Yeah.
get it. If
A lot,
but you look at it from their point of view. All right. You, Alex, Chapman, Jamie Hike, the guys that win at Southside. If somebody from Dominion had ever come to Southside and kicked your teeth in, how much would you think they were cheating?
A lot.
Now, granted, it never happened because it's a driver's track, not a car track.
All right, well, let's heighten the stakes. Say if you just won the championship and now Dominion closed down, and now 5 drivers come from Dominion, all of them beat you.
Right.
Now you're really mad.
So they have a
Wasn't
legit
so
reason.
good after all.
yeah.
They have a legit reason to be upset,
yeah.
but they're directing their anger in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
They
could just ask for help.
Southside guys have always had better cars, because where did the Schumans get their first race car?
From
Yeah,
Ronnie and
from
just
Ronnie.
from Southside guys.
It was an old Daniel Thomas car and whatever. They knew where to go to get the best cars.
The
They
best
go where
handling
they're
cars, too.
fastest.
Yeah.
Right. Where did Ryan Pritt get his first winning UCar?
I don't
It's
know.
Tyler Davis' Southside
Oh, was
car.
it? Okay.
Yeah. Now, it went through a couple other guys before he got it.
Yeah.
But they came to Southside to buy that car because that's where the good cars are.
Yeah.
So Southside UCars have been better than everybody else's, except for Langley's, for years.
Saturns.
Yeah,
Well-
I'll say it's a little different.
Well, Langley's always been, they don't tech anything at Langley. And the guys were great to race with when we went down there. They were always super nice. But
Were they?
we show up to us they were.
Okay.
The competitors.
Yeah, the competitors. You show up
Not
with
the
a
tech
stock,
guy.
with a stock motor, and
Usually the competitors are the worst.
my car was like missing one night. Chapman was driving it, and it was missing. And the guy's like, "What kind of pistons are you running?" I'm like,
Cavalier.
Cavalier.
What are
He
you
goes,
talking about?
oh, come on, man. I said,
Yeah.
"That's stock motors."
Who
He
would
goes,
take the time to put pistons in this
like,
thing?
who did your camshaft? General Motors.
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is we're
And we really
2005
didn't.
right now.
We had nothing,
Yeah,
but they were super nice. They were being helpful.
especially back then.
What kind of springs do you have? Cavalier. Oh, you got from Malibu Springs, or whatever the guy was telling me. And he was trying to help me.
Yeah.
So all the competitors
way
we
more
raced
advanced.
with down there were nice people, but we never could run better than third or fourth at Langley. Ever.
Yeah.
Well, there was that one time.
There was one time that we run Hoosiers against their Yokohamas. They had a big race coming. They made it an open tire
Bugs?
rule. So they basically gave outsiders an advantage, which wasn't really fair. If I was one of the Langley guys, I'd have been pissed.
And we also won the first ever U-Car race at Langley.
Yeah,
With Kyle Wood.
Yeah.
In our backup car.
But they gave us the ability to run Hoosiers. And Austin ran second the whole race. And he caught the leader. He talked about this on the show when he was on here.
Oh yeah.
He caught the leader. He wrecked the leader. It was 98% Austin's fault. The other 2% was Donnie in his ear telling him, "At your spot, that's your spot, that's your spot."
It was Donnie's birthday or
So
something.
Win
he
that
wrecked,
race.
destroyed both cars. So Chapman, who was running fourth,
Got
finished
a
second.
trophy.
Who
So
won? Some random.
Don't even remember.
some Langley guy.
Don't
you know.
even remember.
But
Austin was beating Chapman though. That's pretty good.
Chapman was never that good at Langley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was good at a lot of places we went, and we would just show up and be fast. And
Yeah.
that was what probably some of the best times in UCAR racing is when you go out of town to a different racetrack, unload, and you're one of the guys to beat,
Yes.
because you're not expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a Wake County to a Larry Walls clash race or
It
whatever,
was so cold that day.
30 cars, and we got in practice. Our car looks like ass. It's primered. The decals are falling off because it was so cold and it wouldn't stick.
It's like 28 degrees.
It was the Beretta, old primered Beretta. And after first practice, Mike's like, "Man, turn two is awful." I said, "Well, we'll figure it out, whatever." So I asked one of the guys around us, I said, "Who's fast? We can have somebody gauge." He says, the 18 and the
01.
01. I said, "Cool." He goes, "What car are you with?" I said, "The 18. "Well, you already know you're fast." I said, "No, we didn't know.
Never
we
been
don't,
here."
We don't know what's fast." He goes, "Yeah, whatever."
You'd be like Mike Pence, you get that fly on
Car
your head.
was so ugly nobody would even come look at it when it got there.
Yeah.
Right. But
Primered,
after,
you said?
But after practice, they swarm the car because they want to know why in the hell are these guys so fast all of a sudden. So Chapman and Reno, I think they won their heats, one the other. I think. but they ran first and second the whole race, and Mike was going to finish second.
It was a really good race.
Reno may or may not have had a store-bought motor his whole entire UCAR career, which, you know, whatever. But they had a restart with a handful of laps to go, and Mike took the outside, and we know who won the race.
Got it done.
Yeah. So we had never seen the place, and it was a big race for us. It was like $600 or whatever to win the race. Now,
Extra 75 for the Walls roof
I
and
think I
decal.
spent $600 on tires that week because we had to buy special set of tires to go or something. But
And that was back when the horn and the radio still had to work.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because they actually would go around under caution, and the guys would be blowing the horns and stuff.
Yeah,
I
playing
wasn't
radio.
I wasn't a huge fan of the clown show that they used to make out of the ucars.
Yeah.
I don't mind the horn radio things that are kind of funny, cute, whatever, but they would treat them like total white trash.
Really?
And I think Daniel Thomas, Rusty Bennett, us, there was a handful of guys who made their cars look nice. Mike Hall, different guys who elevated the class and showed they can look like race cars.
Yes.
They don't have to look like enduro cars and
Primer
stuff
gray
like that.
shit.
Right.
Maybe not an example from that day, but
Right. But it made people go, wow, we can actually make these things look nice and still be cheap race cars.
yeah.
And it changed the class a lot, you know, and it made them a little more respectful.
Absolutely.
You know, they unloaded at Coastal Plains one week with, I think it was a Walls roofing thing. They only had a handful of cars.
Yeah.
And a promoter walked over and said, y'all can go the opposite way tonight. And Lauren Edgerton was there. And because she was running all the races at the time. Her dad said, no, she's not doing that.
Yeah. That's,
And they loaded up and went home.
Yeah.
The reason for doing that was they wanted to keep the car's stock suspension.
And they wanted to prevent camber and all that shit.
Right. If we make them go the opposite way, we can prove the cars aren't set up.
To go that.
And also, the fans are going, they're going to make it a clown show out of it. And because of the safety aspect of it, her dad said, no, she's not doing it.
Yes.
And they loaded up. It's good for her.
We
Smart.
talked about that a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
They did that at
I remember y'all
Southside one
talking
time.
about it. Yeah.
They did do it.
Yeah.
But the point that I didn't realize is when you come on the outside, like when you're driving down the straightaway, your driver's side
Right.
is
He's
on the
against
outside
the
wall. And if somebody hits you going into turn 1 or turn 4 or 2, this is weird. If somebody hits you going into turn 4 or 2, and you slide up the track, you're going driver's side in first.
Absolutely.
Unless you spin around. But
Yeah. And the racetracks just weren't designed that way.
yeah.
And it still goes back to the don't make a clown show out of them.
Yes.
You know, any class. You know, we got on Steffi last when they first started racing at Dominion
I was
because
just getting ready to say
they
that.
played the Sanford and Son theme song before the UCAR race.
Yeah.
'Cause it was a junkyard.
Yeah, and Edward's kind of talking, or Edwin's kind of talking down to him and shit for a
Yeah,
little bit.
and Steffi's like,
was
we think
awful.
it's funny. I said, I
That's
don't
so
think it's funny. I think it's
trashy.
ridiculous.
yeah,
It was
what's
awful.
funny about it?
It
The
wasn't
guy
funny
that's
at
going
all.
to win the race going to get out and laugh about it?
Right. The guy that's buying your
his wife
$150
gonna laugh about it?
tires, you know,
Yeah.
If I was in any car, I'd be pretty aggravated because they do it with them
they
now
do with the Indy
sometimes,
cars
too.
now. Yeah. Now, granted, some of the Indy cars have junkyard dog painted on the side and
Bark,
stuff, so
bark,
you're
bark.
kind of asking for your, you know,
Man, his car barks at you when it comes around. It's pretty cool.
it does. But I
And
mean,
and to be fair, they did this for the Enduros or whatever it was called, the street stock class up at Old Dominion when we
Right.
went there for a short stint. They would, you know, the stuff that they'd say on the intercom was just really weird because the cars were kind of ugly and it was
Right.
probably their only street stock class they had. But still, it was just kind of interesting. I remember thinking like, they're talking about us like we're zoo animals or
Yeah,
something. Like
right.
this is
I
fucking.
mean, if you do a day of destruction and you're doing
Disrespectful.
some crazy cosmic stuff,
Yeah.
it's different.
Or-
That's one thing. Like we're trying to actually do something here. I'm
Sure.
like an 18-year-old
Yeah.
kid, like trying
but back to the Dominion stuff. There's so many fast U cars now up there that even before the season started, you know, a couple guys have had problems and stuff, but there's legit 5 or 6 guys that can win a race any Saturday night. up
every
there.
given week. Yeah.
You know, Frazier's fast. Frazier doesn't have the experience some of the guys have.
Yeah.
So Frazier's lost 2 races this year, sorta, because of his experience, not because of how fast he was.
Yeah.
You know, Alex got under him, passed him when Alex won his race this year on a restart. Before that, Frazier was faster than him.
Gone. Yeah.
You know, but Alex is very smooth at Dominion,
Yeah.
and he runs the same lap over and over and over. And he caught him and got around him. You know, Chapman got him on a restart with a lap car. Wasn't even a
The lap
restart.
car
It was a
messed
lap
him up.
car. Wasn't even a restart. He caught a lap car, and Frazier just gave the guy too much room.
Yeah.
Well, Frazier hasn't led a bunch of races. That's something that Frazier has to get used to doing. You
Yeah.
know? Nothing's going to fix that but time.
And put gas in it.
Yeah, the
3
gas
races
thing.
he's won.
Yeah. I still don't know that Cameron wouldn't have caught him last week anyway, because Cameron's a
So
beast.
fast.
He's a
He's
beast
good
at
at
Dominion.
Dominion, yeah.
He's always been good at Dominion. Though.
Yeah.
When he first went to Dominion, Ryan Pritt was the guy to beat,
And he was right there with him right away.
and he was immediately as good at Ryan Pritt, and not being just a Southside guy, but the years that he spent at Southside helped him at Dominion immensely. Cameron,
yeah, has
you
to
know.
have.
He just ran a better line than Ryan did, and
At every lap. too.
every lap.
Yeah.
So
Right now, he's running a better line than most guys up there. Even Chapman, you could argue.
there's no question. Chapman's my guy, but I sat on the back race last week yelling at him because he wasn't, in my opinion, it's easy to say from where I'm sitting, he wasn't running the right line that I felt would have won the race.
Yeah.
Cameron was. And Cameron killed him.
Yeah, and I would trust you for something like that because I could watch the video and say, yeah, I agree, bud. I've literally watched 3 or 4 races in person up there, and I've only been in 3, to where I know that even at the end of my last race, I didn't have the perfect line. So I'm not going to chime in on that, but you've seen enough, and you watch. You're a lot better at analyzing the other cars versus this car versus your own car, which it is your old car.
Right.
So you can see all that kind of
I
stuff.
feel like I can tell you what you're doing wrong. I can't do it right. I mean, I'm not saying that I
That's a
can
good
get in there
point.
and fix it. I can't.
Yeah.
Because I drove your car at Southside and went, this is tough. I mean,
Yeah.
I ran 10, 12 laps and went, to run the times they're running at Southside that y'all run at Southside, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just a lot of practice.
people
really.
don't realize how
I think
on
you could
the
do it,
edge
just
you
be
have to do. How close to the edge you have to run those cars.
Especially at Southside.
Right.
Especially as like using the brakes. Because at Dominion, you don't even use the brakes.
No.
Same at Shenandoah.
Yeah,
Like, I
Shenandoah
think I
was
was talking
very
to,
little break.
Yeah,
if
I was
any.
talking to Tanner. He's like, I used the brakes and the whole car just got out from underneath me.
Right.
I'm like, imagine using it twice a lap, every lap at Southside.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing to learn is just the using your toes for brakes instead of your feet.
Yeah.
And not over braking.
And
spinning the car.
Shenandoah still goes back to guys that run Southside that go up there and not knocking Shenandoah guys. If you go to Shenandoah and you don't take guys with you and you win a race at Shenandoah, it's kind of like winning the Special Olympics.
Back in the day, it used to be more hype. You're undefeated at Shenandoah, right?
Yeah.
And back then,
Yeah.
there was a decent amount of cars. You were beating
Well, the
fast
first
Southside cars.
week I went, we only had 5 or 6 cars.
Ugh.
And we showed up, and Eric Morris, we get there, and he goes, use these tires. I'm like, I got tires. I got Hoosiers. He goes, I got something better. It was a tire game at the time.
Okay.
He's like, top 3 or 4 cars have these tires. You have to run them. So he gave me 2 tires to run. He wasn't racing that night. He goes over to, a couple other guys that raced up there, the Harmons. I think it was Chris Harmon. He's like, hey, man, you got 2 spares, 2 of those Nittos or whatever they are?
Mm.
He's like, yeah, can Bud use them? Yeah, sure. So they loaned me tires for the first race
Dope.
to outrun them with. Now, they didn't realize that at the time, but we won that race. But it was like 5 or 6 cars. I started on the outside pole or whatever, and it wasn't a walk in the park because Harmon was right there with me the whole race. But didn't have to pass nobody. It was just make good, smooth laps.
Yeah.
So my first win up there was cool. I won a race, but didn't really do a whole lot. We went back, and there was 14 cars. We brought a lot of guys from Southside and what have you. So it was 13 or 14 cars qualified on the pole with our own tires we bought because the guys won't loan you tires twice to outrun them.
Mm-hmm.
So we qualified on the pole, and they inverted the whole field. So if you start 13th or 14th at Shenandoah and drive back and win the race, you can feel better about that one.
Yo, yeah.
That was a fun race, except for wrecking Rusty Bennett and destroying his car. That kind
Yeah,
of
you
stuff.
accidentally killed Rusty, didn't you?
Yeah, I think he still limps because of that wreck.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
He was not happy with Mr. Allen
It was a bad wreck.
at
He didn't
all.
talk about it to me. He didn't bring it
Well,
up.
no, but you know how you've done it 100 times. You follow somebody in a corner. Now, I was 2/10 faster than him all day, at least, because he had Falcons, I had Nittos.
Yeah.
You follow somebody in a corner every lap, and you're faster. But you don't really want to push your buddy out the way. So we went in turn 3, and he went way up high. And I said, oh, he's giving me the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, I was wrong. He was taking
Oh,
a different
God.
entrance to the corner.
Oh, no.
So I stuck it in there, and he come down. In my opinion, he spun himself out.
Did you hear that?
I still felt bad about it, but I went, okay, Rusty spun out, no big deal. Well, then the red flag comes out. I'm like, What the hell? So Michael Munley, bless his heart, he drove through Rusty like wide open. Rusty was on the apron like towards the infield.
Sideways.
And apparently there was a blind spot in Munley's car or something was the story. And Munley hit him at speed. I mean, it hurt Rusty. Like, he was bruised before he left the racetrack. Like his whole side. It was bad.
Yeah, like right in front of the driver's side door to the fender area because
Yeah.
it hurt.
It was
It hurt
bad.
his ankle.
It was bad.
Oh.
And you know, Rusty looked at it as I wrecked him, which if I was in his shoes, I probably would have too.
Yeah, that was Bud setting up a sales transaction.
Well, and then I sold my car in Victory Lane to Munley.
To Rusty. I just.
Well,
to
to
Munley,
the one who wrecked Rusty.
the kid.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I just said in Victory Lane the car was for sale because I was already thinking about selling it. And if you win your second out of 2 races, it's a really good time to sell it.
Yeah.
So, and
We
his
went
dad,
home with an empty
Yeah,
trailer.
you did that with me.
yeah, his dad's like, yeah, we want it. Let's see what fit in the trailer. I mean, so, and Munley run that car for a couple more
They got
years,
money,
won a
huh?
championship, and you know, it was good.
Yeah, our first meeting with Munley, we actually realized he had one of our old cars.
Really?
Yeah, because Landon Abbott had bought
Right.
both of our Sunfires, and we knew it was our Sunfire because Bud would move the spoiler back because he didn't like where it was. It looked
Uh-huh.
funny.
Yeah.
And we were at Shenandoah walking around. I was taking pictures, and I was like, and Bud's like, that looks really weird. I think that might be one of my cars. And then talking to him, he had bought it from Landon, so we instantly,
Bonded that way.
bonded with them because they had one of our cars.
I know somebody else just bought a Sunfire.
Oh, Tanner,
T Money. Did you know that?
I did
I
because he
heard-
reached out to me about decals.
I heard,
Oh, yeah?
I heard he was buying a car.
All right. Well, y'all spoiled the news, not me.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Alex's fault. He told.
Yeah. He's got a big mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex
like a-
tells everybody
He's
everything.
like a bad refrigerator. He can't keep nothing.
And so, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god.
An unplugged refrigerator.
He'll be here all
So
week.
I heard you say one time during a different episode you actually prefer owning the car over driving it.
Absolutely.
Even though you're undefeated at
I
Shenandoah.
don't like the pressure of
How
driving.
did you? Yeah. How did you go through the phases of picking drivers throughout the years? Like you said, you just picked some guy at work that you liked.
Yeah, so the kid at work, like, I want to drive a U-car. And I'm like, okay. So we built a U-car. Plus, the U-car class kind of intrigued me. It was cheap. It was easy.
And you're a mechanic, so at the time you were like, well, I literally work on this type of stuff every day.
Yeah, right.
It's easier than grand stock for me because
Absolutely.
it's literally what I work on.
Yeah, and it was cheap. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of money and stuff. So we put it together for him. And we really enjoyed. The problem is, people don't understand it until you get there. Winning ruins racing.
Yes. Yeah, we've talked about this.
And once you start winning races, anything other than winning's a bad night.
Yeah.
And that's a shitty feeling.
Not only just a bad night, but a wasted and ruined night.
Well, it is, and people don't get it. I would much rather be a guy who ran top 5 with a chance to win every week because it gives you something to try for. It gives you something to work hard for.
But when you're that guy, all you want is to be the guy that can win
Absolutely.
every week.
But once you get there,
You can never be
there's no
happy.
going back.
And
There's
that
no going
guy
back.
that's always chasing it has a lot more friends at the racetrack than the guy who's always
Right.
in victory lane.
And I legit don't
True.
like people, but I like people at the
Yeah,
racetrack.
fuck them. Yeah.
You know,
True. Okay.
I mean, when me and
Ooh,
you,
bitch.
me and Chapman,
Get out
even
the
back when me
way.
and Austin was running, it bothered me some years to see guys I really liked. Jamie Height. I like Jamie Height a lot. I don't always like how he drives a race car because he runs into my shit for no reason.
Yeah.
All right.
Preach it.
But he's my buddy. I do anything with Jamie.
He laughs about it because he knows you
He
don't
thinks
like
it's
it.
funny.
He's like, Chap.
I'm gonna
but
wreck
more.
Bud's
He's
car and put a
Runs
tire
into
mark
the
on the
car. I'm like,
side
what are
of
you doing?
it.
He goes, it's funny.
It's not
But
funny, Jamie. It's
he
not
worked
funny.
as hard
Play the Sanford
as
and stuff,
anybody.
yeah.
You know, he worked way harder than we did
Yeah.
to run 3rd or 4th. So there was years where it bothered me that I was keeping him from winning races.
Mike
know.
Chapman kept Austin Dodge from winning a bunch of races too.
Right. But it sucks when you're actually looking at people that you like
Poor
and you
little
want them
Jeff
to win
Gordon.
races, but we can't just lose races just so they can win.
Well, they wouldn't be winning them if they weren't winning them against you actually trying.
Well, so several years we
It's not
didn't-
your
we
fault that
didn't
they've-
have a U car or a race car for that reason. You know, because they always say it's lonely at the top. Well, at Southside, at the end of the year, we would take a year off. Let somebody else win races. We've never ran a full season of U cars
With one driver.
With one driver
Sorry,
that
Ethan
we
and
didn't win
Mike.
the championship.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like you and Mike splitting the season up. At least give somebody else a championship.
Yeah. And that year, 2 years after that, I think it was, if I wouldn't have won the championship, you'd have just had to kill me.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
think it worked out for the best.
I think it was okay.
But
I
it's
mean-
just there's so many guys that work so hard. you
Yeah.
know, and they're literally trying everything they can try.
Yeah, kind of like BJ just never got the luck.
Right.
You know,
BJ had
luck's got to be on your side every night
BJ
too.
had the fastest second place car
BJ's
in history.
Needs
Yeah.
some consistency, buddy.
Well, he does. I mean, he knows that.
Some nights he had it. It's just some nights he'd also run out of, not run out of gas.
he
but
would
some
literally,
shit would happen.
if he was running a great race and running smooth and consistent, something would happen.
Yes.
And then the next time he wasn't running so smooth and consistent, he'd burn the tires off or whatever he would do.
Yeah.
But he could not ever put the 25 laps together that he needed to beat you or to beat Alex or whoever was winning that night.
Yeah.
He definitely had the car for it.
He definitely had the car for it.
Potentially.
Bud actually said at the beginning of that season that BJ was going to win 3 races that
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I had that picked out.
So you owe me $100. I remember that.
I think we bet.
I remember
But
that
twice,
bet now.
so you owe me.
You and your hundreds, man.
I think it was 300 you owe me.
Was
and
Ryan
you owe-
in on that bet too?
He would have been.
Yeah, let's bring Ryan in on this. How much does he owe us? We love you, Ryan. Somebody tag Ryan Hudson.
Well, keep tagging him.
You will when you're watching it, just maybe not right now.
Right.
We're going to have to do this again one day live.
We're going to do it. As soon as I get a computer and everything, y'all be the first ones back, especially now that we got vaxes and all that kind of stuff.
Episode 87.
Dude, I've thought about that. I thought about that a couple weeks
I was
ago. I'm
doing
like,
the
should we
math the other
wait?
day.
Might be a couple weeks, though.
I was like, man, I don't
Months.
know because how many you're doing and how many you're not doing.
It'd be a while.
So when 2014 happened and everything fell into place, everybody used to hate somebody that dominates. And
Yeah.
I was no different. If I went out of town and somebody dominated, they're cheating.
Fuck that guy.
They're cheating.
Peyton Sellers.
Peyton Sellers. All right.
Damn.
So
Well, I mean, he dominated.
He's coming on next week. I'm going to tell him you said that.
anybody that
He's
dominates,
got orange on his car.
you know they found something. They're cheating. They're doing something. You can't be that fast every week. But we
But
were
you
so
can.
legal in 14 that it was laughable. It was so legal. And it was just, our car was perfect from day one. Donnie has a setup for a Grand Stock. Donnie understands things that I'll never understand.
2014
you
was
know.
the Grand Stock year, yeah.
Yeah, so if Donnie says
10 out of 12.
the car's a tiny bit loose and I'm like, well, let's do this, he goes, we can do that, but when you do that, it's
gonna
going to
affect
affect this and this. And I only think about it one time. I don't think about the whole circle it's going to go through. And
Yes.
that's where Donnie was beating everybody at the racetrack. Because he was already
And the
thinking
full circle
3
is going to
steps
go
ahead.
through that many times, too.
Right.
You might be doing something for the first 10 laps. He's thinking,
Right.
yeah, but lap 20 through 30, you're fucked.
He's like, so why don't we put a half a pound of air in the left rear? I'm like, that's just going to make the tire, you know. He goes, let's put it on scales and I'll show what a half pound of air does.
And adjust the actual...
And
yeah.
that half a pound of air changes the weights on the car a lot.
Yes. More than you'd think.
I never, you
The
know,
whole cross changes.
I would have never went that far with it, you know. But Donnie looked at it way deeper than everybody else did. So everybody else is chasing you. And when they're chasing you, they're working their butts off. But they're also trying weird cosmic shit that usually don't work.
Yes.
And we're doing exactly the same thing from race 1 to race 12 every
Mm-hmm.
week. And that's what we had to leg up.
And doing the Lynn O'Neill type shit where you're like,
Uh-huh.
Right.
oh, you know, let me spit on this tire and see if
Oh,
that, you
it
know
was
what I mean? Like,
it was comical to watch them put fuel in a car every week and their little tap 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 with
Yeah.
their little hose.
So you go to like the
Ooh.
Coliseum. You go to the Coliseum and watch Cody Carlton at the time dominate. And everybody's like, that's cheating son of a bitch. Well, I've got a different amount of respect, not necessarily for Cody Carlton, but for guys who dominate.
and
Because-
Cody Carlton.
No, not really. I was a big Cody Carlton fan. Full disclosure. I love to watch him drive an arena car. He's a really good race car driver. But when we had the big money race, the big money ucar race, he was helping Michelle Willingham. And
There was
Michelle,
a big wreck.
Michelle wrecked.
A big wreck.
Big wreck. Bunch of people were in it. Michelle's car got tore up. Well, he walked past me on pit road and made the comment after he passed me, obviously. That's what happens when you put big money up for a UCAR race.
And you were the one kind of backing it, or you had found sponsors for the race.
Right. We
It wasn't your
organized
money,
all the
but-
big money.
Yeah.
So it was a jab at me for putting this together. Like, that's why they had this big wreck. I'm not sure if you ever watched UCAR before that, but them son of bitches will wreck for free every week.
For trophies.
Oh, yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the money. It was just a wreck. The deal was he was helping Michelle, and he got to drive the car next week or next day or something somewhere else. And now the car's tore up and he can't race it. So
Understandable frustration from his point, but he took it out on the wrong person.
He walked by, made a comment, and kept walking, and I just lost a little respect for him. So
He's probably just in a mood that day.
probably.
I'm
was.
not trying to defend him. He's fucking talk shit about me on Facebook.
He's still
too, I
He's
try to
no
give him the
Tommy
benefit
Jackson
of the doubt.
Jr.
He's still
just
a
saying.
good race car driver.
Yeah.
I just don't want to drink beer with him.
Okay.
I'd
probably drink beer with him, but yeah, he hasn't bashed me on social media or anything like that. But
Your
he said
standards are
something.
kind of low anyway, Ethan.
Why? About hating people? About hating people?
Well,
You just don't have high standards with drinking beer. Like you're gonna
Oh,
drink
yeah,
beer
I'll
and
drink
eat
beer with
wings with
anybody, yeah,
anybody.
right.
You're a little too much hot
But when you
sauce.
see somebody dominate, you also got to Dan Rogers right now at Dominion. Dan Rogers ain't cheating. Dan Rogers has just got the best package for Dominion right now with his crew and his setup to win most of the races.
That can be offered.
It's not because he done got a big motor. Somebody's always got an excuse.
And people never want to, put the driver as he's that good of a driver.
Right.
Not that I'm saying that about Dan, but they never put those two cars together. Like
No.
this guy's that good of a driver, he's beating everybody every week.
Right.
Until Kyle Larson does it.
Right. Well, I mean,
What
like
the fuck
at
is this?
Dominion, at Dominion, I used to say Dominion, you didn't have to have a driver at all. Just a monkey in the seat, steer.
Yeah.
All right. Now there is more to it than that. You've got to be really, really smooth at Dominion, but you don't need the finesse you need at like a Southside or somewhere like that. It's a total different kind of driving style.
Yeah.
So if you get out front at Dominion and just run qualifying laps, they can't outrun you.
Yeah.
Now you catch traffic or a restart, you can sit on the backstretch and watch and go, he's not much of a driver, is he?
Yeah.
He's over
Depending
driving
on who
it.
you're watching.
At Southside, if you're not good at the track, whoever's in second, if it's somebody like Chapman or something,
Right.
he's going to be running you down, and you better hope he didn't catch you before.
I stood there on the backstretch when the Michael Frazier lap car thing happened, and Spotter Bob walked up and we're standing there talking, and we're like, yeah, Frazier's going to win, Mike's going to finish second. That's cool, whatever. And I said, lap car coming. You better watch this. Because I knew what was going to happen. Don't
You
ever
like the
let
Joe
your guard
Rogan
down.
commentary of UFC,
Yeah.
calls out every move before it
Ask
happens.
Daniel Thomas. Daniel Thomas led the biggest part of a dirt race once and caught a lap car, and the lap car zigged and zagged a little bit. And
That's all it
Daniel
takes.
Hesitated.
checked up a minute to see where he was going to go, and Mike went, winner,
Bam.
So,
Pun intended.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
So you just don't, a lot of good racing at Dominion.
I agree. And I think that back when Dominion opened, the fields weren't so tight to where you could, if you had a big motor and you had a guy that had won a couple races at anywhere,
Right.
he could go out there and dominate. Now the cars, and especially now that Southside Speedway is closed, all those guys are up there. The classes are so tight. As far as, let me stick to UCAR. The UCAR class is so tight. Chapman, Cameron, Michael Frazier, we're still talking all Southside Speedway guys.
Blaine
Blaine
Schumann.
Schumann did do second last week.
In a Southside car.
Impressive. Yeah.
In
Southside
Ronnie's car.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
still a
But-
Southside car, but
Just saying.
But he does a good job.
he does. And so you got these, 5 guys like you were saying that are so tight. Nowadays, it does have to. The driver makes a big difference as opposed to back when the technology was still fresh.
Right.
If you had the fast car, it was usually by a bigger margin.
Absolutely. Like, way different. Like, back when David Gantz had the Dodge, I mean, there wasn't much
yeah.
for tech when he had the Dodge, let's be
Yeah,
honest. He could go out there and start out front and win,
Yeah.
And Jesse with the Jesse's Saturn was just way better than everybody else's. And Jesse's a good driver, but he didn't need to be back then. He could just
Yeah,
no
I
big
got
deal.
smoked by him one night myself.
Yeah. I mean, when we won our first race at Dominion, it was after you finished second.
Jesse wasn't there.
Jesse wasn't there. And the first thing Mike done was thank Jesse for not showing up.
Yeah.
We don't pretend when we win races. These guys that get on Facebook and brag about winning races or brag about their kid finishing third and don't tell you there's only 3 cars.
Or qualifying on the pole after they got inverted into the
we,
pole.
we talked about that. That's one of my biggest
is that
pet
shit?
peeves.
I got the pole. No,
Started
you
on
were
the
given the
pole, you're
pole.
Qualified 6th, and they pulled a 6 out of the
Oh,
bag.
man.
You inverted into first.
And people, I get it. There's family, there's friends, there's sponsors, and you want to make them think you're something you're not. I never understood that.
They're going to know as soon as the race starts.
Right. It's like,
Well,
so
there's those ones that don't travel, so they don't always know.
Right. I
they
mean, I
don't
know
look.
your aunt in New Hampshire thinks you're on the pole, but
Does she even
just
care?
text her and tell you you're on the pole.
Yeah,
Don't put it on Facebook. You look silly.
I just don't even. She didn't care.
Yeah, you just look dumb.
I know you've been waiting on this one. So, would be your favorite driver of each division? We can go each person bandoleros first.
So I'm going to take the politically correct answer on that and say I don't have a favorite bandolero driver.
It's got to be Tristan.
I was going to say if I pick one, it's going to be Tristan Brunelli.
Oh,
Because he actually She decaled his car.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's my Gabby's bando. As of right now, I don't have any other bandos, but I love all the kids, really. Truly, genuinely, I love all the kids in the bando series, and all my ones that I would have probably picked are in different series now. So,
Horrible
Tristan,
answer, Jennifer. By the
I'm
way.
just, whatever. That's the only class I will not default 100%, but I do love Tristan and his family, so they're pretty awesome.
Not at all like a woman to be indecisive.
No.
Sorry, that was sexist.
Who's your favorite, bud?
I don't have a favorite bando driver anymore.
Oh, God.
'Cause
Here we
Logan-
go.
No, Logan-
Bud, dude. What did you
Just
say?
like a man to be indecisive.
Did you
I'm
hear what
not-
I just said, dude? You got to back me up.
Okay, so I'll
Don't
say this.
do- okay.
I'll be that guy.
Okay.
I don't watch those races since Logan Clark moved up.
Okay. Fair enough.
And Fluffy.
He was like 17 when he moved up.
I
though.
know, right?
He was a big boy.
Yeah.
And Leighton. Like, we have all these drivers that moved up, so it's...
Yeah.
And we're not racing them at Southside right now, so that you can't... Like,
Can't you
I'm
just say
used
the
to
music
picking my
kid
favorites
and just
because
go
of
easy?
Southside, so it's harder.
The Raleigh music kid's fast, but
Yeah.
you know.
You've never
I mean,
met
he
him.
is a Southside kid, but yeah.
I've never met him either, and he wasn't that fast as Southside.
Yeah, I don't know.
No offense to him, he was also young. He's like
Phil
now
Warren's-
he's still young now.
He's
Next.
Phil Warren's grandson.
Next. This is
Okay.
I knew
getting
that.
this is getting drug out.
Legends, is that next?
Yeah.
Tommy Jackson Jr. Duh.
Obviously.
87. Woo woo. Hey,
It's so
Tommy.
easy there.
That was pretty obvious. Tommy Jackson.
I mean, you
Jr.
have to pick Tommy because he goes to all these different tracks. He's an 87. He does well everywhere he goes, and he's actually a really cool dude. So I mean,
I want to hear her grand stock pick for
I say
Dominion.
no. You have to pick him because this is the Turn Left
Do I have to
podcast,
pick
and you
one
will
for
be
Dominion?
fist fought if
Absolutely.
you do not pick Tommy Jackson Jr.
oh, okay. So well,
It can be either track, any local person.
So-
Grand stock.
I'm just gonna go back a minute. So favorite grand stock driver for me has been Austin Dodge, obviously, and Lane's right up there too. But Austin, he's my boy from get go, from back in the way back. But if I have to pick one at Dominion,
Yeah, I love Lane too, but I'm not picking Lane over Austin. Let's be serious.
I guess I would
No
go
offense,
with
Lane,
Bobby
but-
Curtis. He'd be my Dominion guy because
Yeah.
no,
Bobby Curtis.
Bobby Curtis, going old school. And
That's a good
Southside.
That's a good pick.
Just saying.
Hey, Richard Powers.
I
Really?
know. Well, I was tossing that one
Richard
around.
Powers is the single best grand stock driver at Dominion right now.
Really?
He is a beast.
Too.
Really?
And he's not afraid.
He is. I love his style. He does some dumb shit sometimes, but I love his style.
And
He
he
can-
didn't race much at Southside before they closed down, but
No.
now he's been doing a lot at
Right.
Dominion.
He drives the wheels off. Literally broke a wheel a couple weeks ago. Bad deal. But he. Everybody always says that, but 2 or 3 more laps last week, he'd have won both races over Dan.
Really?
Yeah, with less car, no question.
Yes.
And I
That's
will.
what we.
It was Will. It was Will. I mean, he was on the wheel. He was serious.
Yeah.
And I will also add like, one from Langley that I used to always enjoy watching because the cone thing had started was Landon Abbott because he was the only one that would take the outside of the cone. I don't always agree with his driving style, but he would take the cone and nobody else would.
He's maybe the most talented driver, but yeah, he's a dick.
Yeah.
In
a
no
race-
offense,
in-
Landon.
in
In
a-
a race car.
in a race
He's,
car.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
the Jamie Height of
Yeah.
grand stock.
Yeah, no, he's,
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
I don't-
exactly.
I don't-
Great example.
I don't want him driving against my car because he's going to do something to piss me off.
Might not even want him driving my car. Yeah, yeah.
And I like him enough. I don't want to argue with him.
Yeah.
But he, he's for
He's
Landon.
aggressive.
He's for Landon.
He's
you know?
aggressive.
Absolutely.
Who isn't? That's successful.
Oh, we
Exactly.
skipped. Did we
Other than
skip?
Austin, but he,
We skipped ucars and went straight to grand stocks. Like
well, he was excited to hear your grand stock.
I know what
Dang.
the heck. He wanted to put me on the spot. I don't know how I was gonna pick that.
Hey,
So ucars, I've always
nope.
What?
Late model.
We ain't done ucars yet.
Don't
I know.
disrespect the ucars.
Dang it.
Hey,
So
Hey.
obviously this is a soft spot for me as well because I love all ucars. However,
late model.
I do have 3 goats.
Oh Jesus Christ!
You know,
That's
Ethan,
not
you're not in
even-
the list. I'm
I
sorry.
know, I know.
I love you.
I know.
And
I'm,
you've been
I'm,
one
I'm
of my-
frustrated that there's
I've
3
loved
and
you
not one.
being-
Not that I'm not it.
Well, I know. So my goats are obviously. I think I've made this clear a bunch
This
of
isn't
times.
obvious.
It is. Well, I've talked about it before. Mike Chapman, Robert Arch,
Ugh.
and Jesse Danger Jones.
Ugh.
And only because they go all over the place. You know, yeah, they've been successful in a lot of different places, but it's back to our traveling days, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah. No, those are very respectful answers. I was actually just messaging Robert Arch a couple weeks ago, singing his praises, saying, I'm going
Robert-
to have Bud and Jennifer on, and I told him I would give y'all hell about not giving him a ride in the backup car that
Right.
year when you let Michael Hall, of all people, run it. We love you, Michael Hall. That's just a joke, but
Well,
Uh,
that's,
you didn't let Robert Arch do it.
that's still a bad deal.
I would love to have put Robert Arch in one of our cars, but Bud had, some conflicting feelings because Robert can get a little wild.
He's
So-
kind of like Landon Abbott.
Robert Arch
He's
is
like
the
a
guy.
Landon or a
Robert-
Jamie Height.
Robert is the guy that you take out of town where your friends don't race.
Right.
Yes.
Because, like we said,
You
I
want
like
to
the guys at
win
the racetrack.
no matter what.
If you want to go to Shenandoah for a big money race and your friends aren't going, call Robert. He's going to win.
You don't bring him in town where all your friends are.
Yeah,
No.
Robert made a comment last year at Dominion, and I won't say who he was with or anything, but his theory was, my theory, if you can't win, wreck somebody who can. Okay.
That is his motto.
That is how he races, and he's pretty serious about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's had success with it.
Absolutely.
He has had success in many different
Can't deny.
But he's a
not
wheel, he's
just
a wheel man.
ucars. And he's a smart dude too, just saying. But I don't know if y'all saw the promotion for the Franklin
I
County.
didn't call him a dumbass right before this started or anything. like
No,
that, for the
I'm just
record,
saying
right?
no, he's really super smart.
Yeah.
The Franklin County thing that they just put out about the stacked cars. Have you seen that? Where you have the car on top as the steering
Yes.
and the car on the bottom as the pedal.
I didn't know that.
So if you go
Oh,
back and search Robert Arch's timeline, he's done that shit before, and it was hilarious.
Was
It
he on bottom or
and
top?
they won.
He was on top,
I
believe.
think he was on
on
the
top.
bottom,
Was he?
and he
I
had the
don't know.
music playing, and
Or
it was
bottom.
like some I don't
she
know
missed out on that one.
Hispanic channel or something that he had it on, and it was like Father's Day. We were sitting in the garage having a cookout, and we're like, "What is?" He went live from the car, so he wasn't steering; he was definitely pedaling.
So he was the bottom.
Then they get in victory lane
Power
because they
bottom.
won.
He's a
'Cause
power
Power
bottom.
bottom.
Yeah.
Power
Yeah.
bottom, yeah, he was thrusting it good. So
No, Jen.
thrusting it.
The
Way to
pedal,
go,
the
Robert.
Pedal,
That's
the
a
pedal.
top.
He was
Hammer
pressing the pedal
down.
over there. Yeah.
But they won because Robert was involved. So
That's
and
pretty cool, though.
He
Win a weird
literally
race
was
like that.
trying to pick up on the trophy girl, like in victory lane,
Yeah.
while
And it
he was live. It was
really funny.
I do
so
it. Yeah.
But he
funny.
I
he
did it
showed
in
up.
Shenandoah.
He showed up at some racetrack, like in the Midwest or something, to spot for some big time late model guy. And somebody's like, "We need a driver for this car," and he's like, "I'll do it," because he,
It
he's who he
was
is.
He could
the
drive it,
best
yeah.
thing ever.
It was, and it was so you look at your phone, you go, "Robert Arch got a live video." Oh, I got to click on this, and you're like,
And he's in a
"The
car.
hell, double
during
decker
a race.
cars?
He's
What is
got a
this?"
car above him.
Yeah, it was great.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
No, would
I
give him
smile every time I go back and watch that video.
Yeah, it's good.
credit. I want to
Yeah.
see it. Will you send it to me?
And
Yeah.
and one of our first encounters with him, well, not probably first, but pretty close to first encounters with him. Bud had his hat on backwards because he was ready to fight.
Really?
Because that's when he took
Ooh.
that ugly Beretta that was primer and the decals falling off the November before. Spent all summer making chicken salad out of it.
It was winter.
Oh, I mean, sorry, winter, wrong seasons. We don't have seasons much in Virginia. But spent all winter making
We have
chicken
all of them all
salad,
the time.
making chicken salad out of chicken shit,
Mm-hmm.
And it was all pretty. Went back in March because Southside hadn't started racing yet, and he ran us up the track and scuffed us out of the car against the wall. So yeah, Bud was pretty
Yeah,
pissed.
for like third place.
yeah, Bud was
Yeah. A whole winter worth of cosmetics.
and
down
now
the
they're
drain.
buddies. Now they're like buddies at the track.
Yeah,
But
it was bad that night.
he wanted to
It
kill
was
him
bad.
back then.
Well,
I can't
that's
do
what
that
happens.
kind of stuff. I hold grudges. Like you put me no.
He did for a while, but
hate you
now they're
forever.
buddies. This is how a lot of relationships
So
have started at the racetrack.
great thing
No.
is Robert was on like double secret probation because he was kind of a dick when he was young, and he got into a lot of stuff with the tour, the whole walls roofing thing. So he was on like double secret probation, like touch somebody, you're out the rest of the year
Yeah.
kind of thing. So we went to county line, and I told Mike, I said, "Don't forget he's on probation." I said, "So just use him up." So Mike just goes in the corner and drove through him, run up on the side of him because Robert couldn't do anything back.
Yes.
So he just kind of stood over there and glared because he couldn't do anything, couldn't say anything. So we kept messing with him, just trying to get even, And then the more you were around him, the more you realize he was young. I mean, he was a teenager probably.
Uh-huh.
And he was just wide open. And once he calmed down a little bit, he's cool. I mean, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's just the heat of the moment inside the race car that'll do all kinds of things to you.
Right.
And I really enjoyed Bud Allen in a ucar too, the few times that he did race.
The only reason Bud raced Shenandoah was to shut her up.
You were undefeated.
Yeah.
And
So she was right.
And he also ran at VIR, and that's one of my favorite UCAR memories, is because he went off the track and we couldn't see him anymore. All we could see was dirt. And then he came back on the track, and we all were cheering like it was the Daytona 500 or something, like something magical had just happened.
Yeah, that was
Pretty
good
exciting.
and you led a lot of laps and stuff, and you finished second or something like that?
I finished second in the heat, and then we started, I don't know, third or fourth or something in the feature. And Reno and somebody got together and run across my
Michael
wheel
Neal.
and busted a tire. So I came in. I was done. I was going
Oh,
to
we
park
were
the car.
changing that mofo.
Well, the pit's there because it's, it's a wine and cheese place. So you drive from here to the, road up here to get back to your trailer. So I'm unbuckling, and they start changing the tire. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Well, it's a full course caution. I didn't know they had a caution. I thought they were just going to keep going. So they put another tire on the car. I went back out and had to start last. 20 car, 25 car, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I drove back to fifth or sixth.
I think
or
it was
something.
like 6, but it was like the best
Under
shit
green
ever.
But it was enjoyable to drive back through that many cars on a
On
road
green
course.
flag.
So good.
Yeah, because you're out breaking guys, you're getting them kind of corners. It was good.
When we go live, we're going to talk about calling out Dominion about doing a road course race. What's your favorite UCAR drivers?
That's tough. I mean, it's got to be
Your
Chapman.
favorite UCAR driver?
It's got to be Chapman.
Okay.
We did the most with
He's
them.
still the funnest to watch in a UCAR.
Yeah.
And sometimes Mike knows he's having a ball and he's fun to watch, and that's not fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fayetteville.
Right. But even sometimes at Southside, he'll get in a car that he knows he can't win with, and he's sliding it around and bouncing off his stuff. And
He's still fun to watch.
yeah, still fun to watch.
You can enjoy
And-
watching no matter what.
And anytime he's in a car, if he's not leading and there's a restart, he's the car you're going to watch.
It will be exciting.
Right.
He's going to try to win no matter what car you
Doesn't matter what it takes.
Yeah, and I think what helped him most was back when he first started running the U cars. Y'all didn't have like spotters, and
No.
he wasn't running radios, and they were inverting the field by points, so he had to start in the back of, and it was like
Every
20
week.
to
Every
25 cars every
Yeah.
week, and it was just something to watch him come up through
Chaos.
the field
Yeah.
every single week.
Right.
But entertainment at its finest.
Yeah, because when he started driving, we built him a little Le Mans that was junk. He ran like 2 races, and we cut it up. And me and Mikey from work built a Dodge Shadow out of the cage that came out of the Le Mans, and built Mike a Shadow. And he went out to the racetrack. He calls me. He's like, "Man, this son of a bitch is fast. Oh my God." He's like, "I just passed Lauren Edgerton on the outside. Whatever." So he calls me back. He goes, "Don't hurry to the racetrack." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "I just destroyed your brand new car."
Oh, my God.
I'm like, "In practice?" He goes, "Yeah, I went to the outside of Lauren. We know that's not a good idea. And she didn't know I was there. So I knocked the right front wheel off. It's loaded on the trailer backwards."
Okay.
I was like, "Great." So we fixed it. He went back and he run top 5, every week for a handful of weeks. And then he won after a bunch of tussling and pushing and shoving, and somebody spun him out. He spun a guy back out. They run over each other. It was just a whole cluster.
Big race of drama.
Yeah. So after the race was over, his first win, he's in Victory Lane, and Joey Bryant used to run Grand Stock back in the day, Chargers, I think they were back then. He walks over after the race, and he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Hey, man, just so you know, we're all right, but we're going to mess him up before he leaves, just so you know."
Damn.
And walks off. I'm like,
Fuck.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah, I don't need to be.
So we left. We got in the parking lot. I told Mike, I said, "I'm done. I'm going to sell it tonight." He's like, I said, "I can't do the drama, dude." He's like, "I get it. We still work together and everything." He just knew I couldn't do the drama. So I sold it that night to Taxi Tommy. And he put it in his garage, never raced it, everything with it. Over the winter, when tax time come around, Mike bought it back from Tommy. So he would have his own car for next year.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike, back then especially, without help, wasn't fast.
Yeah.
It was an 8th place car. He didn't have the knowledge or the time,
Tires,
money,
funding.
different things to get the car back up front.
Yeah.
So he ran it about half the year, and I bought the Beretta for like $750 out of the woods behind Freddie Talley's house.
Yeah.
And I told Mike, I said, "I bought this car. It's faster than the Dodge. Do you want to drive it?" He is, "Absolutely." I said, "But you can't touch another race car on the racetrack if you drive my car."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Okay, deal. And
How long did that last?
he did really well. I mean, like, a lot of guys that start driving ucars have no racing etiquette at all.
Mm-hmm.
They've never even been to the racetrack. Mike Chapman never watched a race till he was in one.
They were playing NASCAR '98, just
Right.
bouncing shit off each other.
So he literally wrecked Michael Moore in like his first or second U-car race,
Mm-hmm.
and like turned up on his side, like
Oh, shit.
bad wreck.
Oh wow.
They were coming towards the end of the race, and Michael Moore was passing for like third or fourth or something, and he just turned into him, like rubbing him, like he's playing a video game,
Yeah.
and turned him to the right, and he hit about a flag stand. A horrible wreck. So Mike stopped. Chapman comes down pit road, and I said, "Dude, what did that guy do to you?" He says, "What do you mean? What happened?" I said, "You turned him to the right."
You just fucking destroyed him.
He goes, I don't even know what happened. I was just trying to rub him to slow him down a little bit when he's trying to pass me. He had no idea what was right and wrong in a race car. No clue.
It's like I just totaled that guy by accident because I was trying to scrub a
So,
little
of
speed.
course, him and Michael Moore had beef for years.
Oh,
They
yeah.
still have beef.
Really?
But, so that's how a lot of the wreck happened the following time, was because
It was a
Michael Moore's
rowdy
people
division,
and
yeah.
whatever. But it was just too much drama. So the Beretta was involved in some of that wreck where Mike won his first race. So we knew it was a really good car. So, but Mike got in the car. The first week he drove it from like 20th up to 5th. He finished third the next week, and then he won the last 4 races of the season
In a row?
in a row.
Damn.
And I don't think he ever touched anybody. If he did, it was nothing.
Minor.
And that was back when you started last every week.
Whoa.
He was just, that car was really good, and he was really good.
Yeah.
And everybody was kind of like, holy shit.
He's good through traffic always.
Back when it was chicken shit, because it was ugly, but
was-
I loved it.
But that's
Yeah.
especially good through traffic.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about modified? We talked earlier about you owned a modified for a little while. We skipped over the fact that Denny Hammond drove it for a while, or one race at Sobo.
One race by accident. No, at
Kinley. Southern National?
you're getting closer. Southampton.
Southampton.
Yeah.
Ah.
By accident.
Yeah.
John Eversole was supposed to drive it.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, John Eversole was going to drive that, a late model, a limited, a grand. He would drive like everything that night.
Yeah.
He got down there and was busy, had too much going on, something wasn't running right or whatever. So we kind of got there and didn't have a driver. So I sent my dad over to ask Rodney Estes about driving it, because I was a huge Rodney Estes fan.
Yeah.
And Rodney was a super wheel man, never got the credit later that he deserved, because once he became Denny's late model crew chief, they kind of forgot that Rodney was a badass race car driver to begin with, you know. So my dad goes and asks Rodney, "Hey, you want to drive Bud's Modified?" They only had like 8 cars or something. He's like, "Man, I'd love to, but I can't. I'm like working on this late model, and I can't really stop." And he goes, "But Denny will drive it." Well, I wasn't a Denny Hamlin fan. Still not. My dad comes back and goes, "Denny is going to drive your car." I was like, "What?" Now, in Denny's defense, I thought he was just a kid who got in a car and drove and didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So he's never been in a modified before.
Still the only modified he ever raced.
He gets in it, goes out and practices it, comes in. And it was our Southside car. We were just there playing. He comes in and he goes, "You got any springs?" I said, "We ain't changing no springs, Hoss."
Yeah. No.
He's like, "All right, well," I said, "I don't want to change this up too much because we're on Friday night to Southside." He goes, "All right, fair enough. All right, go down 2 pounds on the left front tire and the track bar 2 clicks." I said, "We ain't got no clicks, bro. We got holes." He goes, "Shit. We kind of need a half a hole, so that's not going to work." And he starts spouting off shit that I was like, "Whoa, you got to dumb it down for me a little bit."
Yeah, like, how do you know all this?
His crew wasn't with him. There was
He knew it.
nobody. He knew exactly what he wanted. He's never driven one of those cars, but when he came in, he knew exactly what he needed out of that race car.
Or what it could be, make it better.
Very, very smart. I mean, he was very, very in tune with what he needed.
Wow.
And so we adjusted it best we could. He went back, when the race started, and we didn't have the best of car compared to some of the guys down there. So he's probably running 5th or 6th out of 8, whatever. And Chris Hallman was in a really bad wreck on the back straightaway. I mean, it went from the back stretch to turn 4, upside down, end over end. It was, could have
Like
been.
one of those, while they were running to the car, were like,
So long red flag.
They
right?
covered
So
the car with a tarp
Denny's
afterwards.
sitting in the car under red flag. He's got a late model race to race in a few minutes. So I told Steve, because Steve was spotting for him, because Steve loves the radio. I told Steve, I said, "Hey man, tell Denny to park that thing so he can get ready for his race." And then he's like, "No man, I'm gonna run the rest of this race."
Yeah, we finished
He wouldn't get out. No, he was committed, and he did a good job in the car.
Yeah.
He finished 4th.
So it gave me a little bit more respect for him as being more knowledgeable than I thought he was.
Not just some random rich
Right.
kid driver that got a
Right.
deal.
Yeah. And so we followed him a little bit as far as when he went with the Rockwell Automotive car and he went bush racing and trucks a little bit and whatever. And we were kind of fans until he got into cup racing and thinks he's a superstar.
Yeah, when they did that Cribs episode, I was done.
He is
I
way
haven't
more
seen it.
into being a superstar than a race car driver.
Yes.
And I ain't got no use
When
for
the
that.
championships prove that.
Absolutely. So
So who's your favorite modified driver, bud?
Yeah. I don't want it to go too crazily
Current?
long because I don't know how long pre-recorded we'll upload.
You can do old and current.
well, current is Kyle Wood.
Yes.
That's a given.
Or I guess we'll do old really quick just 'cause I'm curious. as
Billy
to you.
Morris.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was still one of the baddest dudes that ever strapped in a race car.
Really?
Absolutely.
What about you?
So I too love me some Kyle Wood because he's got the personality and the best laugh ever. But I also
Large
can
man, too.
really
Beat the shit out of him.
appreciate Chris Hopkins in a modified. So
Good answer.
him in that yellow 17.
But it's hard to call him a modified driver
I
because
know.
he drives so much
He
stuff.
does, but he was so good in that yellow 17 out at Southside Speedway. So I really enjoyed watching him wheel that car around the track.
Let me pay a compliment to Alan. I think he did great in that car, but I think a lot of other people would too.
Oh, yeah.
Not to take anything away from Chris Hopkins, to give to Alan Marshall. Mason Bailey could have won that championship in that car.
Yeah, that was it's a good car.
Yeah.
Very good car.
Only reason I use that is because Mason Bailey drove the one time at Dominion in that modified one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I took a picture of that
really?
in the victory lane. I was there that night.
Yeah, Clyde won it, Dominion too.
What about late model?
Current late model, Eddie Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, Eddie's just the gentleman late model guy. That
He's kind of my favorite too, but he hasn't been on the show.
a real
so-
quick story was Lane Janosic years ago when he was driving had a really bad night at Southside. The officials were messing with him or something. He was having a really bad night, and Eddie Johnson walked over and said, "Come on, Lane, don't yada yada yada," and walked off. And Lane's whole entire mood changed.
Yeah.
He walks by me and he goes, "Eddie Johnson knows my name," and people don't understand how big a deal that is. You know,
It's like when I'm texting Chris Dodson. He's like, "Yeah, man, I know who you are."
Right.
Like,
yeah,
how?
right?
Why would you do?
Yeah.
Why would you know?
It's
who
a big
I
deal.
am?
It's a big deal. To some guys go, whatever, but it is a big deal.
Eddie Johnson's a legend.
Yeah.
Eddie and I text each other. I'm just saying.
If y'all
We're
can get him on the
friends.
show, he might go back to my favorite late model driver. That's
Right,
all I'm saying.
right.
Right now, it's tough between Dotson, Mason Bailey, who's got the sticker on the car,
Right.
and now Doug, he's Doug. You know,
Yeah,
he's,
right.
he's badass. So,
I was actually thinking about this a minute ago, and I was struggling because I used to come up with an answer really easily, but now I can't because I have too many other people I like in late model now. So obviously, I like my Michael Sutphin. Okay, he's personality
Oh,
and
absolutely.
has a lot of heart and things like that. So I love Michael Sutphin. I love Eddie Johnson, and I didn't start liking Eddie Johnson in the beginning because some of his fans annoyed me, which is even a funnier story because I'm
She
friends
just
with
said
those.
about us.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually friends with said fans that used to annoy me in the stands.
Yeah, you're married to one.
Chris Dotson, I thought was an ass, and then we were out somewhere one day because
But
I didn't know
he-
anything about him.
He is an ass. He's okay.
Okay,
with
Yeah,
it.
but
he
I didn't
is,
know.
but
okay,
he's okay with
that
it.
was back before I could appreciate the assness.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that guy. And we were out somewhere, and he like
Outback.
just Outback. Okay, yeah, we saw him another time at Outback. He must like that place. And he was just like, "Hey, bud," and was just like talking to him. And we walked off, and I went. And this was before I was taking pictures, so I didn't really recognize everybody all the time, especially when they were away from their assness. And I was like, "Was that Chris
Hey.
Dotson?" And he was
Because
like,
you're like, "Hey, Jennifer," says your middle name Alan. You're like,
Right.
"What?" Like,
and
how
I'm
do you know
like,
that?
"Was that Chris Dotson?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "He was nice. What is that about?"
Yeah, ew.
And he's actually one of the nicest dudes.
Oh, dude.
I
Like,
said
At-
he's not at the racetrack.
it's
well,
the same with
even-
all these guys.
It is a
well,
lot of them.
and for me, I'm not competing against him. So even at the racetrack, he was always nice to me. A
It's the
little
opposite
too
of
nice
me.
sometimes.
I'm
because-
nice at the racetrack. I'm
Right.
dick outside.
I mean,
the
he
racetrack.
would make weird, like, winky and kissy faces at me sometimes and kind of get me a little like, what the heck is going
it
on
got her-
right
it
now?
got her a little
He
something.
probably heard you doing all that seductive
It
voice you were
wasn't
doing
like
at the beginning of
that.
the thing.
But yeah, when he did it, I'll be like, what's happening right now? But
He's a player.
I love me some
He
Chris
can't turn that
Dotson,
off.
and now I love the kind of assness that he displays. Like when he gets out and says some of the things that he says
I'm
at
the
the
best
track.
motherfucker around
This is my racetrack. This is my backyard.
It kind of was though.
It was.
And then, of
Think about
course,
it.
now we've got Logan, who we love, and
Yeah.
he's racing at Dominion in the late. So I'm really struggling because I love a lot of my Connor Jones, Daniel Silvestri. They're all my Southside boys. Like I told you, I couldn't pick a
she
bando
does
guy.
like young boys, just so you know.
Leave me alone. Anyway, all my
just saying.
all my Southside boys have moved on to the late model class, so it's really really hard for me. So I do love. Mini.
Did you make a pick? This was so long for not picking a driver.
She said, "I like
All of
all of them."
Tina's watching a different podcast.
That's
all
why.
of
I mean,
them.
I could have done the same thing she done. Picked out every guy I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
I just
pick
went
every-
They're
over
all
the years.
really nice.
and
Pick one, Jennifer. Pick one.
Who cares about personality?
Jennifer's mad at Tina now.
I will not pick one.
Oh my gosh.
What a dick move!
Favorite NASCAR driver, and like I said, I don't want to go too long
Yeah.
on pre-recording because I
This
don't
is
even know if
getting-
it'll upload if it's going to.
This
crazy.
is getting drug out.
Yeah. Favorite
Kyle
NASCAR
Larson.
Cup driver, NASCAR Cup Series only.
Right now, Kyle Larson, but Carl Edwards was,
Oh yeah, that's true.
and
You
Clint
did
Boyer.
Get, yeah, you did get
All my
shorted.
guys keep quitting.
Retired.
Chase Elliott and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah,
I put the Jeff Gordon car out there for you.
I saw it.
Just
and the Landon Abbott car. Oh.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, sorry.
It looks more J.D. McDuffie like.
It is Jamie and Duffy.
I know,
think
but it
Chapman
has a
gave us-
70.
There's
so-
not like a.
It is a
I'm
good point.
not going to go there.
It's got the same font kind of too, right?
It does. I mean, it's
Yeah, let's not.
I think I had a couple more questions, but we got another one scheduled for when we go live.
Super late models. Superman. Sorry,
Who?
it's
Who is
dirt.
Superman?
Jonathan
Jonathan
Davenport.
Davenport.
Oh yeah, he's coming on next week.
Yeah.
Sprint cars. Kyle Larson.
Really? Well, you already picked colors and you can't.
I can pick him again.
Okay, that's true. You kind of can. It's a
He's
different
my
division.
dude right now.
This is getting drug out.
Well, let me
Don't hate.
thank y'all for coming out. And like I said, as soon as we get a computer working and stuff like that, I've got a desktop from like 1993. As soon as we get something working, we'll have you guys back live. We'll talk some more. I've got a couple more questions I never even got to, which is totally fine. The best episodes are always like that. It'll be up tomorrow at noonish, which everybody watching this will be like, yeah, it's today, right now at noon, motherfucker,
Right.
I know. It's also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Shout out to Sarah K. Speed Shots.
Whoop whoop.
Woo! For sponsoring this episode and all of them and getting us started with a new computer that we upload every YouTube and Spotify episode 2 through. Does that make sense? We
Absolutely.
use that computer for all
Hey,
the
look,
stuff.
a hand warmer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 9-volt battery. Where's the paper clip? I don't have any because PTSD. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry it was not live. Sorry, Jennifer, it was not live. I know you want it to be.
Shocking.
I love you both and want you guys to come back as soon as possible. As soon as I get the computer up. Maybe episode 87.
We'll see.
Yeah, probably won't have it by then.
No
but
pressure.
yeah, no pressure. Thank you guys for coming out. Tina, will you hit the old
Exit
diggy
music.
daggone?
Is
Thank
there
you, everybody.
Exit music.